Welcome to Aging Untold. We're all familiar with blocking people online, but what about disconnections in our families? Could you imagine not having any contact with your parents or a sibling for years? Some polls show nearly 30% of Americans are estranged from immediate family members. Sam, why do you think this is happening?
I actually think it starts with a really small, usually, misunderstanding or miscommunication. And then like any infection, it's allowed to take hold, and then it just grows and it festers. And then I think pride steps in the way. I think oftentimes reconciliation is possible. It's just nobody wants to take that first step. Now, there are times where it's by choice and it's for safety and it's because it's an unhealthy relationship, and you have to honor that. It's as hard as it is. But sometimes and oftentimes the ones that I see are, there was a misunderstanding. Maybe it was during a time of grief from the loss of a loved one and siblings fracture. I see that a lot. But I think it's just these small little things that happen, and then it turns into this big explosion, or not even, just a disconnect.
I think the saddest thing is we always say that life is too short. We say that all the time because really it is. And I think the saddest thing is when you have these disagreements or you're estranged for whatever reason, if you don't get the chance to say goodbye before the person is gone.
Right.
I worked with a woman who, I was her healthcare decision maker, and she was estranged from her son. He had a bad drug and alcohol problem, and he just didn't want to quit. He had taken a lot of her money, and she was really clear. And she didn't say it angrily, she just said it very matter-of-factly, I'm done. So as time went on, her memory got worse and worse, and she stayed consistent. I do not want my son around. But I could see all the caregivers that struggled with her decision, although she never changed, and the pressure that I felt, get her to call him, get him to come, and I just resisted that. But I think about it, and I think, what would I do if I were in that situation? And I think what I think about is, if I'm gonna be okay if you die, and I'm gonna be okay, then I'm okay. If there's any niggling of maybe I should reach out, then listen to that.
The question for me isn't if they die. I kind of feel like at that point, just because somebody's terminal, just because, look what you've missed already. Look at the damage that's already been done. And, just because there's an illness doesn't necessarily mean that this is going to be an okay time to roll back in either.
Yeah,
Sometimes.
On the contrary, look at what damage, I'll just be disagreeing, what about the damage that would have been done if she had reached out? So it does go both ways.
Yeah, I wasn't disagreeing with her on that.
And I do see some people that probably shouldn't stay in those toxic relationships. But when it comes to estrangement, I have to say, to me, I almost feel like this might be the one that hits me hardest, that my greatest fear is that someday maybe I'll learn something magical, the right words to say that might make all the difference and be too late for someone I love. Right. Estrangement is one of the most difficult things for older adults to live with, and oftentimes they are estranged for a very significant reason, like, you know what you did. But still, I think that if we can give each other grace, most of the time we're going to be better served by that. Because people don't show up, and they might not regret it for decades, and then it really is too late. It is what it is. Oftentimes it is due to mental health, drug, alcohol issues, and these are unsolvable problems sometimes. So how do you help someone deal with that, the fact that they are estranged? And then what is the collateral damage, like grandchildren? There's no relationship with grandchildren. Like, you can't even take your grandkids to Disney World.
Well, I think I have mixed feelings because I think it's kind of depends on the individual. So like in your circumstance with your client, she's probably has done everything she can. She's given all she's got, and she says, hey, and I'm comfortable with it because I've done as much as I can. So if there are grandchildren involved, if he's not changed, she wouldn't see them. So, and that would make sense because the bridges you have to come through is too dangerous.
Right.
So you have to look at the different circumstances and all that. But if it's just someone holding on because of the pride, or I just don't you know, you're just not gonna, it's control. A lot of times people use it as control.
Bingo.
I have a problem with that.
Bingo.
Yeah. And don't roll back in
I'm gone.
afterwards and say, where's my inheritance? If you've been fractured for all these years, don't step back in and expect that there's a payday at the end. I see that oftentimes as well.
Yeah, it's very common.
And it's very, very common. And then there's anger. You know, the will, it's a document. It's not a therapy session.
Right.
It's not gonna fix things.
Yeah, get therapy, family and marriage counselor.
Sure.
Look for therapy to help you because it is so painful. And if you talk to other older adults, what you'll find is that it's actually normal. As awful and painful as it is, it's so normal. And some people have even worse situations. So it's kind of good to hear what's going on with other people.
But it's
Yeah,
really hard to
absolutely.
rebuild trust when it's been broken. So that's a hard road. And you probably are going to need mediation or counseling or
Yep.
something because it's
Yeah.
hard.
Definitely.
It really is.
Definitely. Still much more to come on Aging Untold.